Welcome to the 531, where we debate a top 5 list on a particular subject, further discuss it down to a top 3, and then eventually settle on a top 1. Now after this beat, we'll get to today's subject. Working Fans Podcast, welcome back for another week of the 531, where we take a top 5 list on a particular subject, debate it down to a top 3. And then, Zach, you've been heard. It's not a top 1. It's the number 1 spot, the king of the hill, the bull of the woods. This week, it is the top 5 horsemen that are not Ric Flair. And to be fair to Randy, I did shit on this list because this is almost as bad as the triple threat matches list to me, only because you're basically leaving out the 1 or 2 horsemen you didn't care for.
This was not Randy's list.
This was not Randy's list. This is Dave's list. So, Dave, I'm looking you in the eyes. We're on FaceTime. I am sorry. I said,
Jake takes down.
oh, it's Jake's list?
Jake, well, wait a minute. Jake gave me a horse. Okay, yeah, you know what? This one particularly was mine. Jake spawned off the other horseman list we'll be doing. My bad. I eat this one.
Well, either way, I apologize. Mike Flynn brought us the first list, and I think the power of these lists is really going to come from the discussion because he had Tully, Arn, Malenko, Ole, and then he picked Pillman over Wyndham.
Yeah.
Solid list.
It's a solid list, man. And yeah, you're right. We're going to hear a lot of the same names over and over again with this list. What kind of horse are we doing?
I don't think we're going to hear a lot of Ole. What do you think would push somebody to put Ole on their list versus someone else?
If you like the original, if you like the old school. I will say this, though. Names, and I haven't seen a lot of these lists. I know Randy's list. I know mine. I might know AJ. We'll see if we get towards the end. But names you're not going to probably see on this list. I'm just going to guess. Mongo McMichael. Paul Roma. Maybe we will. So no offense to anyone who picked us. I'm just guessing those are 2 guys that we're not going to see on this list.
No, those are 100%. I actually got that Horseman book that by Dick Bourne. You've probably heard a couple people talk about it. Corny's definitely mentioned about it. And it's almost like a timeline of the Horsemen. Very good read. I don't see a lot of those later picks. And even like Ole, I'm surprised about. I don't have him on my list, though he should be, because when it comes to horsemen, like, I'm a traditionalist. I like the original 4. I can get into Benoit. Barry Windham is a perfectly acceptable horseman to me, too.
Yeah. The original is my second favorite. Honestly, I don't have an argument that there are people's favorite, but my personal favorite is the Flair, Tully, Iron, Barry. I think Barry was a big difference maker, and Barry was just so good, and he was a good horseman that I just give him that notch above. I don't think they ever got better after that group. Those are the original 2. I believe Barry come before or after Luger? I don't remember that timeline right now, but
I haven't read the book in a while, but I feel like Barry would be before.
No, it was after. He turned on Luger in a tag match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's where the claw came in. Think of your recent wrestling history where Shawn Spears was given that black glove by Tully Blanchard in the limbo.
True.
The claw, very Wyndham.
So any fans that are horsemen, any fans of ours that are fans of the Horsemen that have not read that Dick Bourne book, go on Amazon, pick it up. 4 Horsemen, amazing book. Speaking of books, Jake's an author, and he brought us a list. He's got Arn, Barry Windham, Brian Pillman, Tully, and Dean Malenko.
Good good list. I was almost going to say I wonder if Malenko's going to make a lot of people's list because Malenko's a great wrestler, but I don't know if people necessarily think of him as a horseman all the time.
No, he would have been one of the better horsemen, but he kind of almost falls into that early group of people you might not assume would be in there.
I think this got disbanded too quickly, too.
Yeah. Now, Randy brought us a list, and I'll be damned if a Blanchard isn't number one. But instead of Tessa, it's Tully. We got Barry Windham number 2, Arn Anderson number 3, Brian Pillman number 4, Lex Luger number 5. I'm not a big Luger person, but why don't you sell me on a reason that Luger should be considered one of the better horsemen?
I will. I feel like I might have done this before.
It might have just happened and I don't remember it, but give it another shot.
I think we might be in a lost episode somewhere. But anyway, yeah, I'll stay on this a little bit because I'm not the biggest Luger fan either. But Luger's best run in ring-wise was probably as a horseman. He just fit that group too. He dressed with the suit and everything, and they did a good job of protecting him. Like that and Luger's U.S. title run after this where he basically won it from like Stan Hansen, I think, his last time, and he was defending against people like Michael Hayes, and those were like his 2 best runs, I think, in his career. Not counting, he obviously won the world title later, but if you look at the Luger that won the WCW world title, I don't think he was good in the ring. That was always after his accident, and one where he allegedly might have been taking a lot of steroids, but he was a little slower in the ring. And I just feel like this is one of his best runs, Luger as a horseman. So.
Wow, I would think one of his best runs was when he did that thing with Yokozuna. To me, that feels like the biggest thing he did.
Well, I will say, from a character standpoint, you might be honest on there. I don't think it was necessarily his best run in the ring, but I will never forget that cheesy little "I'll be your hero."
It was the most character he showed, and it's hilarious that he hated doing it.
I know. He didn't want to go around shaking. You ever hear of Steve Austin? When he was first starting the Stone Cold gimmick a little bit, right before 316, maybe a little round, was around that time period. He was like telling Vince on commentary on Raw. Like Vince was still doing commentary. He's like, you guys do some stupid things here. He's like, every one time you had some guy come around and kiss babies and shake hands and go out on a bus and celebrate. Like, why don't you have me get off a bus and just whip everybody's ass? That would be stupid. I thought, that's a great idea.
That would have been a lot more entertaining. Now, Zach brought us a list. He's got Arn, Tully, Benoit, Pillman, and J.J. Dillon.
You know, JJ is kind of the one under your nose, right? Because he wasn't the competitor, but he was ultimately just such a big part of the horse.
He was in that War Games match and got his shoulder separated, so he has been in ring with them. He was a big part of the presentation, so I almost consider him as much of a horseman as anybody.
And I'll say this. Segue back to we're talking about Luger being a horseman. Luger and the Horseman came at a bunkhouse stampede battle royal. It was down to Luger, Tully, Iron, and JJ, who was actually in there. And JJ said, guys, I can't believe I'm down here. I never thought I was going to win. And I just want this one for me. Because they're all going to win it together. And they said, we can't win together. And then Iron's like, all right, let's do it for JJ. And Iron left and Tully left. And Lex was just sitting there, and I was like, Lex, you hard to hear it? We're doing this for JJ. And he's like, I'm an athlete. I'll do what's best. Don't worry. And then he throws JJ out.
Jeez. So Scott brought us a list next. He has Arn, Tully, Barry Windham. He also has J.J. Dillon and Brian Pillman.
Did he mention Mr. Perfect at all? I don't know, because he had told me before that it's perfect. Oh, this is he's on a future list. Scott had told me that Mr. Perfect would have been a great horseman because he didn't count his time, because there was like that brief time Perfect was second horseman. Right.
I mean, he would
stuff going on behind the scenes there.
He would almost fit in the same list here, but
yeah.
Moving on, Chris Zaha from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had Arn, Tully, Barry, Ole, and Lex. Another solid.
More names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shard Johnson from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had Arn, Ole, Tully, Barry Windham, and Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
Benoit and Pillman are getting a couple votes in here. Oh, Pillman's actually been on every list so far. I'm a fucking idiot. Almost every list.
Here's the thing. Pillman and Benoit, Like that, I really wanted that Horseman group to succeed. They didn't really pull the trigger on them enough. Like I thought they were so great having Flair and Iron as kind of senior members, and then Tillman as a Benoit as like the guys coming up. Really thought they looked great as a unit together. Would have liked to have seen that more.
That's the Horseman unit I have like the most hopes for. Like after my favorite one, I'd put that as number 2 because I just wanted it to work. I want to like them, but it's kind of
they just didn't. They didn't pull the trigger and go them all the way. But I mean, if you look, Tillman's personality really started to shine in that group, and that's where the loose cannon stuff started.
Yeah. Benji Fido from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group had
Great
Arn,
name.
Tully, Barry Windham, Ole, and Lex. Very similar to one of the lists I feel like I've read. That's why all these lists are tough because you're reading like the same 4 or 5 names over and over. Brian Huff, also from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group, had Arn, Tully, Ole, Barry Windham, and Chris Benoit. I'll give you my list next because I had J.J. Dillon, Arn Anderson, Tully, Barry Windham, and I finished off with Benoit.
Okay. Now, did we read, forgive me here, I just want to double check before I go into mine. Jake and Mike Flynn?
Jake and Mike Flynn, we did.
Okay, cool. Just making sure here.
So you want to do your list first or AJ's list?
Oh, let's do AJ. The part of AJ will be played by the man they call Dave today. All right, everybody. My favorite list is... I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to him. I would say he would have picked the original 4 Horsemen. I don't think he... I can't remember if he got it in me in time. But he would either go with the original 4 Horsemen or he would have substituted Ole for Barry. Other than that, like, those are, like, his guys.
All right, so...
And the original 4 Horsemen is Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Iron Anderson, Ole Anderson, for those who don't.
So would you put in J.J. Dillon, including that 4?
Ooh.
Because you got Ole, Arn, Tully. I'm going to put in Barry Windham because you mentioned him. And then
I'm going to say that as much as AJ likes J.J. Dillon, he would rather have the wrestler in there. So I'm going to say AJ would. He could tear me apart from this later. I'm sorry, man. It got lost. I was trying to do the best I can at the short notice. But I would say AJ wants the original 4 Horsemen in there. But fuck it. Take out Ole and put in Barry. So he would want. Oh, wait.
we already have that, so you need a 5th.
Right. So, yeah, Barry, Ole, Iron, Tully. Oh, yeah, JJ. 100%. That would be his Horseman. I know it would be.
There we go. Makes sense. And Dave, you've kept us in suspense up until this point.
Guys, Randy might get it wrong once in a while, but you know what? Tully Blanchard is one of the greatest 4 Horsemen of all time. He's part of the original. Damn it all. What a great competitor. Slamboree 94, I think I've mentioned it before on this podcast. Him against Terry Funk. They have a lot of these legends at WCW Slamboree, and they're having these matches that just aren't very good. But Terry Funk and Tully Blanchard tear that shit up. All right? Then, just look at recently, on a couple of weeks ago of AEW, where he cut the heck of a promo on Shawn Spears, saying that, what's your legacy going to be? It's going to be me on the front of your tights? He's like, that's not my legacy. I don't want that. You know, he's just, Tully's absolutely the man. Now, that being said, you can't have a 4 Horsemen without Iron Anderson. You know, it's like, if we're not including Ric Flair, you got to include Iron Anderson. All right? One of the all-time best. Now, after that, this is when we go with the personal favorites and who I like. Barry Windham. Absolutely, like I said before, he would be on my favorite group of Horsemen. And beyond that, Brian Pillman, like we talked about, I think that was where his career was really starting to take off. He made a great Horseman. And a guy I didn't hear a lot on this list, but I thought, honestly, he made a great Horseman. He made a great impact. Psycho Sid.
Psycho Sid. Wow, that's a deep cut.
I think he would have been. Now, I mean, him and Iron might not have been the best stablemates later on. They kind of had some arguments about some alcohol and scissors. But at the time, I thought he made a good Horseman.
Now, looking at these lists, Tully and Arn are clear winners. Who do we move on to that 3rd spot?
By the way, you know who didn't make anybody's list? Sting. Sting was actually a 4 Horseman member temporarily for a little while. He was part of the babyface Horseman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, let's quick sidebar before we move on to deciding the top 3. Did you watch the newest MLW anthology this week where they highlighted the Extreme Horsemen?
I started to. I got to the War Games matches this weekend.
And that, I've been going through old MLW, and that is one of the earliest ruling factions with Steve Corino, C.W. Anderson, and Simon Diamond at its start. They later add Barry Windham, Windham, and Just Incredible.
Oh, okay, yep.
And just awesome. But further sidebar, actually. Have you heard the talk of the possible 4 Horsemen in AEW and what they might be hinting to?
I saw a picture of FTR, Sean Spears, and I'm blanking out on the other guy.
Cody.
And
I saw that, and I was like,
Iron would be like the advisor.
I want to say Tully and Arn would be behind it, and I saw that graphic, and I'm like, I so hope that fucking happens. That would light the wrestling world on fire, I think.
Oh, yeah. Cody as a heel, and as a heel, we could overlook that rule that he was never going to get a world title shot. Because a heel would find a way around that, and then a heel. Look, man, I love Cody's work as a babyface.
I feel like they jumped the gun for that Blood and Guts match. Like, now that you got the FTR in there, how do you not sign them? How do you not put them in the Blood and Guts?
Yeah. Well, see what happens now. I mean, the whole world's being hurt. So, hopefully, when they get fans back, that's when they want them to do the Blood and Guts match. And, yeah, how do you not put FTR in there now, right?
So
we need to figure out a third member of the 5-2-1, though. We got Iron and Tully.
Yep, Barry Windham made a lot of lists. Brian Pillman made a few. Benoit, Ole, JJ.
I felt like I heard Barry, Pillman, and Ole mostly on this list.
Yeah.
I love me some Pillman, but I feel like when you talk about the Horsemen, you're looking at Ole and Barry as far as the discussion goes.
Yeah, Ole and Barry.
And, yeah, I'm a Barry guy. Barry had the better career. Maybe he wasn't a little, but he was just as good as a Horseman. And the tiebreaker to me is Barry would go on to be just one of the best damn wrestlers in the world. Absolutely smooth in the ring. And a crime, even though he did technically, I believe, hold the NWA World title when it was like 2 belts. Like they had the WCW World title and the NWA World title.
Yeah.
Which the NWA was withdrawal, and it became the international belt, I want to say. But it's a crime that Barry wasn't like the guy in that promotion because he was just so good.
Very much. So now we're down to Tully, Arn, and Barry Windham. I don't think it's a question who gets bounced right now because I'm having.
Well, I mean, the argument would be right. We always argue to get this third guy in, and then we bounce them. But there's some debate here. I'm gonna argue a little bit here because let's look at these guys individually first. Career wise, to me, Barry
had the bigger career.
Still around. But he had a hell of a career. He had the NWA World title. He was the U.S. champion. He main evented. There's the Clash of Champions. Go back and watch that. I was checking out the other day. It was Barry Windham and Ric Flair versus the Midnight Express, where Ric Flair was the world champ, and I think Barry had the U.S. belt, and they were going after the Midnight Express. Oh, no. I think Midnight Express had just lost the belt, so Barry and Rick got the win. But anyway, it was an outstanding match. Iron Anderson is basically, to me, the guy who personified and made the TV championship back then, and also one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. Tully was just, man, he's still just so good to me and so underrated. And what about that I Quit match he had with Nag and TA? Still one of the best of all time.
It's
this
big.
Is really like when you talk about Ric Flair as the man, the Horseman, to me, these three are the guys, like right after that.
Yep. The first person I know that we can't bounce is Arn because he was the enforcer in the Horsemen. So besides Flair, he always had like that spot.
So
what would Tully's spot have been besides being Arn's partner?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to bounce Tully. I'm going to say that Barry had, even though, I mean, it's tough to say, right? Who was the best Horseman? Tully was involved in the original and then this one as well, the one with Barry. So you could argue that he was the better horseman. I'd say Barry had the better career, but man, no, Barry just meant to me just as much as a Horseman. I'm going to say Barry.
I feel like the Arn and Tully, Arn had a spot as the enforcer, but their careers were kind of married in the Horsemen because they were the Horsemen, they were the Brain Busters, they were always a team. I mean, Tully did some stuff outside of the team, but I would argue Arn was maybe more the successful singles.
No, I would disagree with that a little bit because Tully, besides being a TV champion, he also had the United States Championship at different times, competing with Dusty Rhodes. But here's the thing. Tully's success, that single success, and he had Baby Doll as his ballet and everything like that, was at the very early on, and even before the Horseman, and then a little after. So if you're a newer fan, and I mean, like, if you're not over 40, you might not remember that. Like, that is like, Tully was Iron, though, for longevity, ultimately kind of outlasted, a lot of these people as far as being like the backbone of the Four Horsemen. So at the end of the day, I mean, Tully and Iron were like an awesome team, by the way, too. The Brain Busters, I mean, come on.
Oh, huge team.
Yeah, so
it's kind of tough to decide who moves on because, like, I'm a bigger Arn guy.
We're bouncing Barry, though, right?
I feel like we're bouncing Barry and we're keeping Arn. Because Barry might have had a better career, but, like, Arn was the enforcer. When he retired, he gave up his spot.
So here's the deal. I'm going to agree with this. Actually, if you take Barry, Iron, and Tully, I don't think Iron he had a great career, but we're talking A+, A-, where Iron was, we'll say, A-, Tully was an A, Barry was an A+. But if we're talking about who was the man in the Four Horsemen that wasn't Ric Flair, then Barry's an A-, Tully's an A, and Iron Anderson is A+. Because Iron Anderson defined being that enforcer of the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, and Dave, I mean, you know what that music means, bud. I think we've made a decision, and Arn is our pick for the top person besides Flair, who was the best horseman.
What's causing all this?
What's causing all this? Boom. Guys, we got an awesome interview. You got George South again this week. We got Rory Fox. We got big things cooking. Thanks for joining us. And please help us grow this podcast. We're out there trying to get bigger interviews. We're trying to get more views on our stuff. Like, share, rate, review wherever you can. And
big things are in the works, people. We need you.
And we will talk to you next week. Thank you.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.